Hey everyone, welcome back to another update. Today we're covering Wednesday, March 18th and Thursday, March 19th, days 19 and 20 of Operation Epic Fury. The war reached a potential inflection point. War Secretary Pete Hegseth and Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane briefed, calling it the largest strike package yet, and Iranian responses slowed significantly. U.S. casualties held at 13 dead, the Iranian toll reached over 1,400 killed and over 18,000 injured per health ministry. President Trump posted the United States is considering a wind down, even as 2,200 Marines deployed on USS Boxer and thousands more troops wait for reinforcements, including potential Strait of Hormuz security. The DHS partial shutdown saw TSA officers quitting amid unpaid work and spring travel chaos. Let's dive in. In a CENTCOM and Pentagon briefing on March 19th, Hegseth and Kane emphasized today will be the largest strike package yet. Capabilities continue to build, Iran's continue to degrade. Over 7,000 targets were hit that day, making the total targets hit exceed 15,000. Three top Iranian leaders were killed, air defenses were flattened, and the Navy is gone, with over 120 ships neutralized. There was an historic use of bunker busters, B-1, B-2, and B-52 bombers, A-10 Warthogs, and PRISM missiles were deployed to dismantle remaining missile production and IRGC infrastructure. Iran sent the lowest number of attacks since the beginning, but threats to Gulf areas, U.S. bases, Israel, and shipping remain. Trump urged Gulf allies for Hormuz warships, with 6 pledging support, and distanced the United States from some Israeli strikes, like the South Pars gas field. Admiral Brad Cooper affirmed unmatched power, unrelenting force, with dominance enabling impunity. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt reiterated the war will end when Trump deems objectives are met, and Trump posted the United States is very close to meeting its objectives and that the administration is considering winding down. In briefings and interviews, Trump called the war an overwhelming success, but warned of more strikes if needed. Trump, Hegseth, and Kane traveled to Dover for the dignified transfer of fallen heroes, which include Major John A. Klinner, Captain Ariana G. Savino, Technical Sergeant Ashley B. Pruitt, Captain Seth R. Koval, Captain Curtis J. Angst, and Technical Sergeant Tyler H. Simmons. Although our country is at a heightened risk of terror attacks, the partial DHS shutdown persisted. 33% of TSA officers have walked off the job, so there are only 366 TSA officers left, and 10% of those have called out. Lines are long, and many have missed their flights. Airlines CEOs urged an end to the shutdown, and the White House offered concessions, but the Democrats called them insufficient. Senator John Kennedy revealed he filed to block senators' pay during government shutdowns, and legislation to block members of Congress from getting paid during government shutdowns passed through the House committee. Senator John Cornyn filed legislation to ban special treatment for all members of Congress at airports. On to the intelligence hearing. On March 18th, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, FBI Director Kash Patel, and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, along with other officials like the Defense Intelligence Agency and NSA directors, appeared before the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence for its annual Worldwide Threats hearing. This was a high-profile joint testimony session amid Operation Epic Fury and heightened domestic terrorism concerns following recent attacks. The hearing focused on global threats, including the Iran conflict, but also addressed elevated terrorism risks to the homeland, such as potential sleeper cells or inspired attacks from Islamist extremists, border-related vulnerabilities that could enable foreign terrorist infiltration, and FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force's efforts to monitor and disrupt domestic threats. Senators pressed the officials on whether Iran posed an imminent threat, to which Gabbard and Ratcliffe affirmed intelligence showed ongoing risks, contradicting a resigned NCTC director's view. Discussions touched on domestic terrorism threats, including lone wolf actors, inspired attacks, and the FBI's role in countering them, and Patel highlighted arrests and investigations into foreign-linked threats. The hearing occurred as the U.S. faced an elevated terrorism threat per officials, with concerns about attacks at home linked to Middle East events. While the primary focus was global threats in the Iran war, domestic terrorism, including potential terror cells or networks inside the U.S., was explicitly part of the questioning and testimony, especially from the FBI and DNI perspectives on homeland security. As for Senator Markwayne Mullin's confirmation hearing, it took place over 2 days on Wednesday and Thursday, leading to a committee vote. The hearing was before the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs and was for his nomination by President Trump to serve as Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, replacing Kristi Noem. The hearing was notably contentious, particularly between Mullin and the committee chairman, Senator Rand Paul. Paul accused Mullin of having anger issues and referenced past comments where Mullin allegedly called Paul a freaking snake and expressed understanding for a 2017 physical assault on Paul by his neighbor, which broke several ribs and damaged a lung. Paul pressed Mullin on whether he believed political disputes could be resolved through violence. Mullin denied supporting political violence, stating he doesn't believe anyone should be assaulted by surprise and emphasizing he would protect all states, including Kentucky, if confirmed. Democrats, including Ranking Member Senator Gary Peters and Senator Alyssa Slotkin, questioned Mullin's temperament, experience, and forthrightness. Peters argued Mullin wasn't up to the task of restoring trust in DHS, and there were also references to Mullin's past incident in a 2023 Senate hearing where he nearly got into a physical altercation with a Teamsters union leader. Questions covered immigration policies, ICE operations, including potential enforcement at polling places, which Mullin defended if involving non-citizens voting, the partial government shutdown's impacts, and Mullin's hopes for a less controversial, more focused DHS. Mullin agreed to discuss classified international trips from his House days in a closed-door session. On day 2, the committee voted 8-7 to advance Mullin's nomination to the full Senate. Republican Rand Paul voted against it, breaking party lines, while Democrat John Fetterman voted in favor, also crossing party lines. The nomination now awaits a full Senate vote. Now it's time for the noteworthy tidbits, which are brought to you today by Zevo Life. Let me tell you about them quick. Looking for a game-changing way to improve your health? Zevo Life is the world's most nutrient-dense whole plant, packed with over 50% plant protein, essential amino acids, fiber, and antioxidants. Harnessing the best nature has to offer, Zevo Life nourishes your body while driving your performance, vitality, and overall well-being. Each serving is a concentrated source of clean, well-balanced nutrition designed to support modern lifestyles, and just 1 teaspoon a day supports your gut, boosts energy, and promotes healthier skin and hair. It's no wonder that it's receiving rave 5-star reviews. Step into a healthier future with a 30% discount and a 30-day risk-free guarantee by visiting zivo.life and using my promo code. To support my show and to receive 30% off your entire order, enter in my promo code JADE, that's JADE, at checkout. All right, let's get back to the tidbits. Vice President J.D. Vance visited Michigan to deliver remarks at a manufacturing facility in the Metro Detroit area. The event was hosted at Engineering Design Services Incorporated, a company specializing in robotic systems for paint, sealing, and material handling, and Vance was joined by Second Lady Usha and EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. The Japanese Prime Minister visited the White House for a bilateral meeting and official dinner with President Trump. This was her first official visit to Washington as Japan's Prime Minister, and Japan gifted the United States 250 cherry blossom trees to mark America's 250th anniversary, building on historical donations. The Senate debate continued days 2 and 3 of an extended floor discussion on the Save America Act, and the bill remains in the debate phase. Senator John Kennedy is pushing to make the act a reconciliation bill, which only needs 50 votes plus Vice President Vance's vote. Neither Ken Paxton nor John Cornyn dropped out of the Texas U.S. Senate GOP primary, so both will proceed to the runoff. Fed Chair Jerome Powell left the interest rates unchanged. The IRS and FBI launched an initiative to investigate NGOs and nonprofits linked to domestic terrorism. The House blocked advancing a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution of the United States, 211 to 207. It needed 2/3 of the House, and all but one Democrat voted no. The U.S. House passed legislation that deports migrants who commit fraud against America. Delilah's Law passed through the House committee and is headed to the floor for passage. The law requires drivers to know English and road rules, the swift removal of unsafe drivers from the road, and a nationwide crackdown on trucking fraud. Resigned NCTC Director Joe Kent is under FBI investigation for allegedly leaking classified information. President Trump delayed his trip to China to focus on America. A Nigerian migrant is having his citizenship revoked after he was caught stealing millions of dollars in several states through fraud schemes. The U.S. House passed legislation to deport non citizens who harm federal work dogs. Senator Joni Ernst uncovered $77 billion in Pentagon spending hidden from the taxpayer from 2021 to 2025. Lastly, former FBI Director James Comey was subpoenaed over his involvement in the Trump Russia collusion hoax. That's March 16th and 17th wrapped. Epic Fury claims dominance, but Trump hints wind down amid reinforcements. Will we see de escalation or will the war persist? Share your thoughts on Instagram or X at Shades of Jade Pod. If these updates are hitting the spot, subscribe, review, and share. Thank you for listening and have a great day.